These are very expensive linens. I bet they're very strong. I copied the contents into my notebook. Nothing out of order in here. I'd best not take anything, though. I'm sure he would notice. I transcribed the pertinent passages in my notebook. I copied the contents into my notebook. I copied the contents into my notebook. I copied the contents into my notebook. This bears a closer look. I copied the contents into my notebook. I can't see anything of interest. This is quite a makeup supply. Emily must be more concerned with aging than she lets on. I copied the contents into my notebook. It appears to be a portrait of the general. Must be quite old. He's standing with a very young woman. It's signed, "To John, my husband, Leslie." Let me examine this further. This could use a closer look. They don't get along. I copied the contents into my notebook. The drawer is locked. I think I heard a click. I could be imagining it, though. I think I heard a click. I could be imagining it, though. I transcribe the pertinent passages in my notebook. I think I heard a click. I could be imagining it, though. Normally, I would never violate someone's privacy this way. However, given the circumstances, I will examine the entries for clues and transcribe any passages I find pertinent. I transcribe the pertinent passages in my notebook. I think I heard a click. I could be imagining it, though. I transcribe the pertinent passages in my notebook. I think I heard a click. I could be imagining it, though. That's Shipwreck Island. Those currents appear quite deadly. A rather beautifully made globe of the world. Property of Teresa Robson. I transcribe the interesting passages into my notebook. Wargrave on Justice. I can only imagine the egotism that lurks within those pages. This bears a closer look. This is certainly a clue of some sort. I copied the contents into my notebook. Now I have to start again from the beginning. Now I have to start again from the beginning. The handle jiggles but won't open. I must have dialed in the wrong combination. I think I heard a click. I could be imagining it, though. Aha! It's open! It won't help my brother if I'm drowned in the storm. Aha! With my ear against the door, the conversation becomes quite clear.
Did anyone else see the poem over the fireplace?
10 little sailor boys. Yes, I saw it.
And here before us as the centerpiece of our table are the 10 little sailor boys themselves, all looking correct and polished.
I like a neat and tidy house, Your Honor.
Robson, the man who built this house, was a sailor. Perhaps Mr. Owen inherited them from him.
Another question for Mr. Owen.
As I remember, the rhyme was about soldier boys. Highly inappropriate as I recall.
There are many variations.
You seem to know quite a bit about it, Miss Claythorne.
I was a governess before seeking secretarial work. Governesses spend a lot of time with nursery rhymes.
All gratuitously gruesome, if you ask me. So much violence in the world today.
Sometimes violence is necessary, Miss Brent.
There speaks a soldier for you.
A realist, Miss Brent, not a dreamer. If action needs to be taken, I, for one, am fully prepared to take it.
How does the famous rhyme go, Miss Claythorne?
Must we harp on this topic at dinner?
Miss Brent may be right, Mr. Marston. The rhyme is a bit gruesome. It's there over the fireplace in the parlour if you care to have a look later.
If you think so.
Excellent meal, Rogers. My compliments to both you and your good woman. You've done your employers proud.
Thank you, sir, ladies and gentlemen. Most gratifying, I'm sure. After dinner drinks will be served in the front parlour.
Ladies and gentlemen, silence please. This is your host, UN Owen. You are charged with the following indictments. Edward George Armstrong, that you did upon the 14th day of March 1925 cause the death of Louisa Mary Cleese. Emily Caroline Brent, that upon the 5th of November 1931 you were responsible for the death of Beatrice Taylor. William Henry Blore, that you brought about the death of James Stephen Landor on October 10th, 1928. Vera Elizabeth Claythorne, that on the 11th day of August 1935 you killed Cyril Ogilvy Hamilton. Philip Lombard, that upon a date in February 1932 you were guilty of the death of 21 men, members of an East African tribe. John Gordon Mackenzie, that on the 4th of January 1917 you deliberately sent your wife's lover Arthur Richmond to his death. Anthony James Marston, that upon the 14th day of November last you were guilty of the murder of John and Lucy Combs. Thomas Rogers and Ethel Rogers, that on the 6th of May 1929 you brought about the death of Jennifer Brady. Lawrence John Wargrave, that upon the 10th day of June 1934 you were guilty of the murder of Edward Seaton. Prisoners at the bar, have you anything to say in your defense?
Doctor! I only fainted, Rogers. I'm sure she'll be fine. Narracott, you get my bag from my room?
Yes, of course.
Stout fellow. Marston, in a moment I'll want help to get her to her room.
Of course.
Behind the kitchen, is it, Rogers?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. You can use that door.
I should have thought of that sooner. I won't do that. The flower stuck to bits of it. This is a good reference print for Dr. Armstrong. This bears a closer look.
Thank you, Mr. Narracott. I am in your debt.
The flower stuck to bits of it. This is a good reference print for Thomas Rogers. I don't think going through that would help. Either he's innocent, in which case I'd be grossly invading his privacy, or he's guilty, and surely wouldn't be daft enough to leave any evidence in his luggage. It would certainly be noticed if I rifled through his luggage. I better not. I don't think going through that would help. Either he's innocent, in which case I'd be grossly invading his privacy, or he's guilty, and surely wouldn't be daft enough to leave any evidence in his luggage. The flower stuck to bits of it. This is a good reference print for Miss Claythorne. Not that I think she's capable of murder. The flower stuck to bits of it. This is a good reference print for Miss Brent. The flower stuck to bits of it. This is a good reference print for Mr. Marston.
Now, Rogers, tell us about that extraordinary voice.
It was Mr. Owen, sir. In his letter, he wrote to me to put it on the gramophone once you were all settled in here after dinner.
That was Mr. Owen's voice?
You doubt that it was?
No. I thought I recognized it. I'm sure I'm mistaken.
A disgraceful practical joke.
You think it was a joke?
What else could it be?
I will need to hear more evidence before offering an opinion.
Mr. Marston and I carried Mrs. Rogers to her room. I gave her a mild sedative. She's resting comfortably.
Whoever it was on that recording, that person knows or has taken the trouble to find out a good deal about us all. He was correct about Seaton. I presided at the trial, but all I did was execute a guilty man.
I remember the case. As I recall, there was some talk.
Happily, guilt and innocence are decided by those of us qualified to make a judgment, not by gossip. Of course, there is one omission in that recording. Mr. Narracott, of course. Although to hear Mr. Blore tell it, he might have earned a place on that list had Mr. Owen been so inclined.
Let me examine this further. This bears a closer look. Let me examine this further. This bears a closer look. This could use a closer look. This bears a closer look. Let me examine this further. This bears a closer look. This could use a closer look. Any truth to the accusation against you?
It's a matter of interpretation, you understand. But I'd have to say, yes.
Will you tell me how it happened?
Elderly woman. Poor devil. I'd been up all night with an emergency case. My nerves were shot, hands shaking. But I had to operate. I had to try and save her. I had a pick-me-up or two to steady myself, but I bungled it. It wasn't the drink, I swear. It was an accident. Could have happened to anyone in my profession.
What brought you here to Shipwreck Island?
Owen sent me a note, asking me to have a look at his wife, who's been suffering from arthritis and muscle spasms.
What was the gossip concerning the Seaton case?
I'm not one to spread gossip to just anyone about a man as distinguished as Justice Wargrave. If I were certain about it, perhaps. But I'm not.
That is all for now, Dr. Armstrong. Any truth to the accusation against you?
The name sounded vaguely familiar. I expect it will come to me.
What brought you here to Shipwreck Island?
Got a wire from a pal of mine, Badger Barkley. Surprised me at the time because I had an idea the old horse had gone to Norway. Told me to roll up here.
That will be all, Marston. Any truth to the accusation against you?
There isn't a word of truth in it. Miss Brady was always in poor health. Always. From the time we came to her.
Will you tell me how it happened?
There was a storm, as fierce as the one brewing outside right now when she was taken bad. The telephone was out of order. I went for the doctor on foot, but he got there too late.
Were you mentioned in the will?
Barely. Certainly not what we were led to believe. She was just saying it, you see, to ensure our devotion to her. Beg pardon. I'm not sure what came over me just then. The strain of tonight, I expect, and worry over Mrs. Rogers, of course.
What brought you here to Shipwreck Island?
Isn't that obvious, sir? My wife and I were hired through an agency in Plymouth. Manservant, housekeeper, cook, that's what we are.
Very kind of you to give me your time, Mr. Rogers. Any truth to the accusation against you?
I remember Seaton perfectly well. Playwright, not a very good one. charged with the murder of a chorus girl. He was very ably defended and made a good impression on the jury. Nevertheless, it was clear to me he'd done it.
I appreciate your candor, Judge. Any truth to the accusation against you?
About that child, Cyril Hamilton. I was nursery governess to him.
Will you tell me how it happened?
I'd like to tell you. Cyril was forbidden to swim out far. One day, my attention was distracted. I couldn't get there in time. It was awful. But it wasn't my fault. At the inquest, the coroner exonerated me. Oh, and his mother. She was so kind. If she didn't blame me, why should this awful thing be said?
Are you sure you're telling me everything?
I'm telling you all I'm going to, Mr. Narracott.
What brought you here to Shipwreck Island?
I was engaged through an agency to be Mrs. Owen's secretary. Nothing remarkable in that, is there?
A pleasure as always, Miss Claythorne. Any truth to the accusation against you?
Fellow got hold of a detestable rumor, nothing more. Arthur Richmond was one of my officers. I sent him on a reconnaissance, he was killed. Natural course of events in wartime.
I am indebted to you for your help, General Mackenzie.
Interesting history Shipwreck Island has. I studied up on it before I came down.
What are the names of those two people I'm accused of killing?
John and Lucy Combs. I made a note of it.
Must have been a couple of kids I ran over near Cambridge. Beastly bad luck.
For them, or for you?
Well, I was thinking for me, but of course you're right, sir. It was damned bad luck on them. Of course it was a pure accident. They rushed out of some cottage or other. Beastly nuisance. English roads are hopeless, of course. Can't get up a decent pace on them. Well, anyway, it wasn't my fault. This man is dead.
Do you think Marston committed suicide?
I shouldn't have said Mr. Marston was a suicidal type of gentleman at all.
Did you know Marston before he arrived here today?
Never clapped eyes on him. And who gave you the authority to question us?
You're under no obligation to answer me. What do you think that record means?
I don't like it. Not one bit. Very queer, the whole situation.
That'll do, Mr. Bloor. Do you think Marston committed suicide?
Yes. In my experience, certain types of individuals, when faced with their sin, will then commit the greater one.
Did you know Marston before he arrived here today?
No.
What do you think that record means?
There is something very peculiar about it.
I overheard you mention St. Trednick to Miss Claythorne.
I was staying at a seaside hotel near St. Trednick this same week of August 4 years ago. That boy Cyril Hamilton drowned near there. It was the talk of the town. His half-brother was much older. Hugo, I think his name was. Cyril was a vile child, by all accounts, but first in line for the family title and estates. When he died, it all went to Hugo. He was just about Miss Claythorne's age. There was talk of something between them.
You're suggesting Vera let the boy drown so the man she loved could inherit?
That would be idle gossip. I don't indulge in idle gossip. I've only told you the facts of the case as I remember them.
I won't take up any more of your time, Miss Brent. Did Marston choke to death?
You can call it choking if you like. He died of asphyxiation right enough.
Was Marston poisoned?
Can't say exactly. Everything points to one of the cyanides. No distinctive smell of prussic acid. Probably potassium cyanide. It acts pretty well instantaneously.
Was there something in the whiskey?
Yes, without a doubt.
Do you think it was suicide?
Seems like it.
Could he have been murdered?
Not my line of country. I'm a doctor, not a detective.
Did you know Marston before he arrived here today?
Not I, personally or professionally.
What do you think that record means?
A disgraceful and heartless practical joke, I suppose.
If you'll excuse me, Doctor. Do you think it was suicide?
You conduct yourself well, Mr. Narracott, if you don't mind my saying so. Mr. Blore has told us that you are not what you appear, yet you told him you were not a detective.
No, sir. But I've read many detective novels. I even had one of those junior detective kits when I was a boy. Magnifying glass, fingerprint powder.
Junior detective kit. Wonderful.
Ah, an amateur sleuth then. You appear to have something of a gift for it.
About the suicide, Judge.
I'm not yet prepared to offer an opinion.
Did you know Marston before he arrived here today?
I knew his father, the Duke, and his elder brother. Like so many younger sons of his class, Anthony Marsden was a bit of a wastrel, as you will have gathered. There were other rumors of late, of his dabbling in politics, but this is not the proper forum for that discussion.
What do you think that record means?
May I answer that in a moment after asking a question of my own?
Of course.
Does anyone know Mr. Owen's full name?
My letter was signed only U.N. Owen.
Yes, U.N. Owen. Or, by a slight stretch of fancy, unknown. I'll now answer your question, Mr. Narracott. The name, the recording, the circumstances under which all but you were lured to this island. I have no doubt in my mind that we have been invited here by a madman, very possibly a dangerous, homicidal lunatic.
Why did you retire, Judge?
I know there was talk about my competence, even my ego running wild, but the truth of it is very simple. My health. A lifetime sentencing my fellow man, and now a higher power has passed judgment on me.
Good evening, Judge. Do you think Marston committed suicide?
He didn't seem particularly remorseful. Of course, the record might have set him off somehow. A new incident long after the fact may create a strong feeling of guilt or fear. Wouldn't you say, Doctor?
Possible. Quite possible.
Did you know Marston before he arrived here today?
Heard of him, but we'd never crossed paths, or swords.
What do you think that record means?
There is something wrong with this entire weekend, and especially with our host, Mr. Owen.
I believe we're all coming around to that conclusion.
Yes, but I know something you don't, Judge.
What is that?
I recognize the voice on that recording, and it was definitely not Mr. Owen.
Who was it?
Not so fast, Narracott. Not until I think things through a bit more.
Thank you, Lombard. Do you think Marston committed suicide?
You'd never think he would kill himself. He was so alive. When he came down that hill in his car, he looked... Oh, I can't explain.
Did you know Marston before he arrived here today?
No. I'm sure I would have remembered.
Steady, Miss Claythorne. The lad had his faults, you know.
What do you think that record means?
It was unfair, what it said. Very unfair.
You seem to be a remarkably perceptive girl, Miss Claythorne.
Why, thank you, Mr. Narracott.
Is there anything you can tell me about our fellow castaways?
Castaways? You make it sound so...
Romantic?
I was going to say dramatic. Let me see. No one has confided any secrets to me, I'm afraid. Oh, except one.
That is...
I really don't know you well enough to answer you.
A pleasure as always, Miss Claythorne. Do you think it was suicide?
How dare you! My wife died of natural causes, sir. A long illness, nothing more.
I meant Marston.
Marston? No honor in him that I could see.
Did you know Marston before he arrived here today?
No, I don't think so. Not a military man, I'd wager. Lombard now. He reminds me of someone from my command. But the name wasn't Lombard.
What do you think that record means?
Ugly. After 30 years. Ugly thing to say.
I am indebted to you for your help, General Mackenzie.
Where have you been, Rogers?
I went to check on my wife, sir. She is resting comfortably. But I'm afraid I have some distressing news.
Oh?
One of the china figures of a sailor boy has been broken off.
Chapter 2. 9 little sailor boys sat up very late. One overslept himself, and then there were 8.
Filthy night. I tried to go out to get some more wood for the fire, but the wind drove me back.
A storm like that will keep us all indoors.
My apologies for the accommodations, Mr. Narracott, but all the beds are taken.
Makes one wonder where the Owens were planning to sleep, doesn't it?
A good servant follows instructions, sir. He does not question his employer, unless you'd like to share the deceased's room with the corpse.
This will do fine. Thank you, Rogers.
I'll wish you a good night then, sir.
Everyone should be sound asleep by now. Good time for a little stealth work.